Hey, what's up, everybody? Chris here, and I'm going to bring you my thoughts on The Matrix Resurrections. And this movie has been gestating for many, many years since the conclusion of the original trilogy. And I watched it last night at home on HBO Max. I was going to see it in the theater. My wife and I saw Spider-Man 3, I guess, the capper of the new trilogy, No Way Home, last week, and it was awesome. It was a packed theater. It was really cool. But because of, COVID cases spiking and all of that, we opted to watch this one at home. And so if you followed my channel for any length of time, you know that I am a huge fan of The Matrix. The original film is one of my favorite movies ever made. It's in my top 5. I think it's a brilliant piece of science fiction filmmaking. So I was really excited about this, quasi-sequel, if you want to call it that. And really, it's a full sequel, actually. And I'm going to get into spoilers in this review. So if you haven't yet seen the movie, I would say step away, go see it, come back, and then let's discuss in the comments below. By the way, we just hit 400 subscribers, so thank you so much to everybody who has persisted in viewing my content, people that are new to the channel, whatever it may be. I really appreciate all of you. So I'll just jump right in and say that I did not like this movie. It pains me to say that because I'm really an optimist. If you look at a lot of my movie reviews, I'm able to pull out a lot of things that I really enjoy and appreciate about the movies. And I guess I can start with, sort of highlighting some of those things that I think are worth noting as positives with Resurrections. But on the whole, it just wasn't very good. My wife really liked the first movie as well, and so we sat down together and watched it, and we're really excited about it. And when it ended, we just sort of turned and looked at each other and thought, and kind of said and articulated, that's what they came up with? That's it? And so let's start with the good, though. So the very meta nature of this movie is definitely a break from what you would see with traditional reboots, follow-ups that have been sort of a long time in the works and that sort of thing. And I think that it actually does kind of work. I sort of like that they were trying to do something different here. And I think it's sort of a clever way to reintroduce this idea of the Matrix still being a thing, back to the world, and to have Thomas Anderson, Keanu Reeves, Neo still be sort of, unknowingly embedded in this. But beyond that kind of clever idea, things start to fizzle out relatively quickly. And honestly, one of the things that really kept taking me out of this movie is just how bad the camera work is. And it's not easy to make a feature film. It takes a lot of work, a lot of collaboration with a lot of different people. But the fight choreography in this was just not very good. I don't know, when you look at the original trilogy, even if you didn't like Reloaded or Revolutions or however you feel about those movies, the whole original trilogy felt distinctive, right? It felt polished, it felt refined, it felt like a great piece of filmmaking. There's some of that here, but on the whole, there's a lot of sort of shaky camera stuff going on. It doesn't mesh well with the original trilogy, in my opinion. And a lot of times it was kind of hard to follow what was happening with the fights. And there was nothing all that awe-inspiring about the fights and the action either. In fact, the whole kind of concluding sequence where you've got Neo and Trinity escaping sort of these swarms of people who are being taken over by the suits, I guess, as it were, the sort of AI intelligence that controls everything, trying to take them down. It just was just, okay, here's another thing that's happening in this world that's, fine and kind of cool to look at, but nothing legitimately awe-inspiring in the way that we saw the original film conclude, where Smith takes on Neo one-on-one, and the way that sort of plays out, and you see him sort of coming into his own. There's not really any of that here in this movie, and I think that's probably the most disappointing thing. There was nothing, that just sort of blew my mind about it. And I think it's unfair probably for me to say, oh, the original movie did this, that, and the other thing, because it's a transcendent piece of filmmaking. It really is lightning in a bottle. And again, it's unfair to expect that this movie would approach those heights in any way, shape, or form. But again, there's nothing distinctive here. I feel like this movie really struggles to justify its existence in a lot of ways. Even the end of it doesn't really provide what I would say is a tangible conclusion to the entire story. It's as if they want to keep making more after this. And that's a little bit scary to me, the way this one played out. And there's just some weird kind of nonsensical things happening here. Putting aside the whole premise of the Matrix to begin with, that this AI machine world is controlling us with a virtual existence so they can use us as batteries. Put all that aside. If you're watching The Matrix Resurrections, you know about that and you've bought into it. But the idea that Neo or Thomas Anderson is developing a video game based on his experience from the original trilogy, but then when we see clips of that game, it looks exactly like the movie as it was filmed and released to us. It just doesn't make a lot of sense, right? I think the idea there is that they can sort of, refresh our memories about certain things that happened with the original trilogy. But if it's a game, why does it look like a movie? And why would it look like a movie that we saw on the screen externally from this whole experience? To me, that just doesn't make a lot of sense. I also didn't like what I would call sort of the Disneyfication of some of the things here. So I like the idea of machines fighting machines, right? So what happened post-Revolutions was, there was a war between the machines because of this idea of free will, or so it's implied. You get a couple of brief sequences to illustrate what happened there, but because of that, humans are now working with some machines to try and fight back against this new version of the Matrix. But there are some sequences and some scenes where, people that are on board this ship that's trying to help Neo and Trinity escape from the virtual world are talking or interacting with these machines that they've become friends with. And it's like these little tiny machines that are designed to be kind of cutesy or fist bumping the human characters. And I don't know, that to me doesn't feel like the Matrix and just feels weird and out of place. I did like the way that they approached the idea of sort of a new Morpheus character as being sort of this AI from the video game, if I'm remembering correctly, that Thomas Anderson has created, that they've then ported over into their ship program so they can interact with it as it uses sort of the swarm bots that you see at the end of Revolutions to become sort of physical and able to sort of manifest itself. But again, if I had to summarize, I would say this is a movie that has a lot of really cool ideas, but the technical issues that it has from a filmmaking perspective, the way the story sort of unfolds, especially in the latter part of the movie. And by the way, why is it that Neo can deflect bullets and curve missiles and sort of manipulate his world, but when he tries to fly, he says, yeah, that ain't happening. And all of a sudden Trinity can fly, because she's part of the one, I guess. And this whole idea that when they're close together, they generate more electricity for the machine world or something. It's just really kind of ham-fisted, and honestly, after all this time and all these high expectations, it's really ultimately just a disappointing movie. I just really didn't like it at all. So anyway, that's my 2 cents on it. I'm sure people are going to have a different take and a different opinion, and obviously that's why we're here to discuss these things. So let me know what you think in the comments down below, and as always, thanks for watching.